Welcome to this recording of Answered Prayers. This uplifting discourse was originally delivered by Paramahansa Yogananda at the Self-Realization Fellowship International Headquarters in Los Angeles, California, on October 19, 1939. We are honored to share his divine insights and timeless wisdom with you today. Having come to this world from we know not where, we naturally wonder about the origin and purpose of life. We hear about a creator, read about him, but know not any way to contact him. We only know that the entire universe depicts his intelligence. Just as the intricate works of a tiny watch arouse our admiration for the watchmaker, and the huge complicated machines in a factory cause us to marvel at their inventor, so when we see nature's wonders, we feel awed by the hidden intelligence behind them. We ask ourselves, who made the flower a living form, reaching out to the sun? Whence came its fragrance and beauty? How were its petals formed so perfectly and tinged with lovely colors? At night, the stars and the moon, shedding silvery light around us, move us to reflection on the intelligence guiding these celestial bodies through the sky. The moon's soft light is insufficient for the activities of the day. Thus, a benign intelligence suggests to us that we rest at night. Then the sun comes up, and its bright light makes us look clearly and squarely at the world around us and at our responsibility to satisfy the needs that beset us. There are two ways in which our needs can be taken care of. One is the material. For example, when we have ill health, we can go to a doctor for medical treatment. But a time comes when no human aid can help. Then we look to the other way, to the spiritual power, the maker of our body, mind, and soul. Material power is limited, and when it fails, we turn to the unlimited divine power. Likewise, with our financial needs, when we have done our best and still it is inadequate, we turn to that other power. Everyone thinks that his problems are the worst. Some feel more oppressed than others because their resistance is weaker. Because of differences in their mental power, people put forth varying amounts of energy. If one has a very great difficulty and his mind is weak, he will not succeed in overcoming the problem. A man whose mind is powerful could break down the barriers of that difficulty. Even so, the mightiest men have sometimes met failure. When overwhelming material, mental, or spiritual troubles beset us, we realize how limited are the powers of life in this physical world. Our endeavor must be not only to acquire financial security and good health, but to seek out the meaning of life. What is it all about? When we are hit with difficulties, we react upon our environment first, making whatever material adjustments we believe may help. But when we come to the point of saying, "Everything I have tried so far has failed, what to do next?" we start to think hard about a solution. When we think deeply enough, we find an answer within. This is one form of answered prayer. Prayer is a demand of the soul. God did not make us beggars. He created us in His image. The Bible and Hindu scriptures declare it. A beggar who goes to a rich home and asks for alms receives a beggar's share, but the son can have anything he asks from his wealthy father. Therefore, we should not behave like beggars. Divine ones such as Christ, Krishna, and Buddha did not lie when they said we are made in the image of God. Yet we see that some people have everything, seemingly born with a silver spoon in their mouth, whereas others seem to attract failure and troubles. Where is the image of God in them? The power of spirit lies within each one of us. The question is how to develop it. If you will follow the lesson in my experiences with God, you are bound to find the result you are seeking. In the past, you may have been disappointed that your prayers were not answered, but do not lose faith. In order to find out if prayers work or not, you must have in your mind an initial belief in the power of prayer. Your prayers may have gone unanswered because you chose to be a beggar. Also, you should know what you may legitimately ask of your Heavenly Father. You may pray with all your heart and power to own the earth, but your prayer will not be granted because all prayers connected with material life are limited. They have to be. God will not break His laws to satisfy whimsical desires. But there is a right way to pray. The cat is said to have 9 lives, Difficulties have 99. You have to find the one sure way of killing the cat of difficulties. The secret of effective prayer is to change your status from beggar to child of God. When you appeal to Him from that consciousness, your prayer will have both power and wisdom. Most people become extremely nervous or tense when they are trying to accomplish something that means a great deal to them. Anxious, nervous actions do not draw the power of God, but continuous, calm, powerful use of the will shakes the forces of creation and brings a response from the infinite. The germ of success in whatever you want to accomplish is in your willpower. Will that has been badly battered by difficulties becomes temporarily paralyzed. The resolute man who says, "My body may be broken, but my head of willpower remains unbowed," demonstrates the greatest expression of will. Willpower is what makes you divine. When you give up using that will, you become a mortal man. Many people say we should not exercise our will to change conditions, lest we interfere with God's plan. But why would God give us will if we are not to use it? I once met a fanatical man who said he did not believe in using willpower because it developed the ego. "You are using a lot of will now to resist me," I replied. "You are using it to talk, and you are obliged to use your will to stand or walk or eat or go to the movies or even to go to sleep. You will everything you do. Without willpower, you would be a mechanical man." Non-use of the will is not what Jesus meant when he said, "Not as I will, but as thou wilt." He was demonstrating that man must learn to bend his will, which is governed by desires, to the will of God. Therefore, right prayer, when it is persistent, is will. You must believe in the possibility of what you are praying for. If you want a home, and the mind says, "You simpleton, you can't afford a house," you must make your will stronger. When the can't disappears from your mind, divine power comes. A home will not be dropped down to you from heaven. You have to pour forth willpower continuously through constructive actions. When you persist, refusing to accept failure, the object of will must materialize. When you continuously work that will through your thoughts and activities, what you are wishing for has to come about. Even though there is nothing in the world to conform to your wish, when your will persists, the desired result will somehow manifest. In that kind of will lies God's answer, because will comes from God, and continuous will is divine will. A weak will is a mortal will. As soon as trials and failure cut it off, it loses its connection with the dynamo of the infinite. But behind human will is the divine will that can never fail. Even death has no power to deter divine will. The Lord will definitely answer that prayer, behind which the will force is continuous. Most people are mentally or physically lazy, or both. When they want to pray, they think instead of sleep, and when the head nods, they dive into bed, and that is the end of prayer. The will is buried. Mortal man's brain is full of can'ts. Being born in a family with certain characteristics and habits, he is influenced by these to think he can't do certain things. He can't walk much, he can't eat this, he can't stand that. Those can'ts have to be cauterized. You have within you the power to accomplish everything you want. That power lies in the will. Whoever would develop willpower must have good company. If your desire is to become a great mathematician and your customary associates all dislike mathematics, you will certainly be discouraged. But when you mix with accomplished mathematicians, your will is reinforced. You think, if others can do it, I can do it. Don't immediately jump into big things in your eagerness to develop your will. To succeed, first try out your will on some little thing you thought you could not do. If you work hard at it, you can be successful. I remember all the goals my friends and many others told me I could never accomplish, but I did. Such well-wishers can do much harm. God save us from their kind. Company has the greatest influence on will. If instead of coming here, you went to a drinking party every Thursday, you could not help but pick up something of that worldly vibration. Your will is definitely inspired or weakened by your company. To develop will by yourself is extremely difficult. You require an example before you. If you would be an artist, surround yourself with good paintings and artists. If you would be a divine man, surround yourself with spiritual company. Belief and experience are quite different. A belief comes from what you have heard or read and accepted as fact, but experience is something you have actually perceived. The convictions of those who have experienced God cannot be shaken. If you had never tasted an orange, I could fool you about its characteristics, but if you had already eaten one, I could not deceive you. You would know. You would have had the experience of it. Seek the company of those who strengthen your faith. Thoughts about God, success, healing, and so on lie in your brain in the form of tabloid tendencies. You should experience them. In order to experience your thoughts, you must use willpower to materialize them, and in order to develop the necessary strength of will, you must associate with those who have great willpower. If you want healing by God's power, seek the company of those who strengthen your faith and your will. I traveled throughout India trying to find someone who knew God. Such souls are rare. All the teachers I met told me about their beliefs, but in spiritual matters, I was determined never to be satisfied with words about God. I wanted to experience Him. What I am told has no meaning for me unless I experience it. Once I was talking with a friend of mine, a broker, about the saints of India. He did not share my enthusiasm. All these so-called saints are fakes, he said. They don't know God. I didn't argue. I changed the subject, and we started to talk about the brokerage business. When he had told me quite a great deal about it, I said smoothly, "Do you know there is not a single reliable broker in Calcutta? They are all dishonest." "What do you know about brokers?" he retorted angrily. "Exactly," I replied. "What do you know about saints?" He couldn't answer. "Don't dispute what you don't know about," I went on good-naturedly. "I know nothing about the brokerage business, and you don't know anything about saints." The practice of religion has come to a point where very few try to make their spiritual thoughts a matter of experience. I speak to you only about my experiences. I do not care to lecture on what I know only intellectually. Most persons become self-satisfied about what they have read of truth, without ever having experienced it. In India, we do not seek spiritual guidance from someone just because he has a theological degree, nor do we seek out those who have only studied the scriptures without experiencing their truths. Spiritual Victrolas, who merely mouth truth, do not impress us. We are taught to recognize the difference between a man's sermon and his life. He must demonstrate that he has experienced what he has learned. When you try to experience your spiritual convictions, another world begins to open up to you. Don't live in a false sense of security, believing that because you have joined a church, you will be saved. You yourself have to make the effort to know God. Your mind may be satisfied that you are very religious, but unless your consciousness is satisfied with direct answers to your prayers, no amount of formal religion can save you. Of what benefit is praying to God if He does not answer? Difficult though it is to obtain His response, it can be done. To assure your ultimate arrival in heaven, you must test the power of your prayers until you have made them effective. When I was just a little child, I made up my mind that when I prayed, my prayer had to be answered. That kind of determination is the way. Every test comes then to break your will, but God's power to respond is unlimited. The persistent continuity of your willpower will bring His answer. You should learn to concentrate your thoughts. Therefore, it is important to have time to be alone. Avoid the constant company of other people. Most of them are like sponges. They draw everything out of you, and you seldom receive anything in return. It is worthwhile to be with others only if they are sincere and strong, and if each one is conscious of the other's sincerity and strength, so that you exchange noble soul qualities. Do not while away your time in idleness. A great many people occupy themselves with inconsequential activities. Ask them what they have been doing, and they will usually say, "Oh, I have been busy every minute." But they can scarcely remember what they were so busy about. Too many diversions also weaken your mental powers. If you go every day to the movies, they will lose their attraction, and you will become bored. Movies are all basically the same: lovers, heroes, and villains. We may enjoy a beautiful motion picture story, but life is seldom like that. If, on the other hand, it is too realistic, who wants to see more of life as it is when he goes to be entertained? Life is very tricky, and we must deal with it as it is. If we do not first master it ourselves, we cannot help anyone else. In the seclusion of concentrated thought lies hidden the factory of all accomplishment. Remember that. In this factory, continuously weave your will pattern for attaining success over opposing difficulties. Exercise your will continuously. During the day and at night, you have many opportunities to work in this factory if you do not waste your time. At night, I withdraw from the world's demands and am by myself, an absolute stranger to the world. It is a blank. Alone with my willpower, I turn my thoughts in the desired direction until I have determined in my mind exactly what I wish to do and how to do it. Then, I harness my will to the right activities and it creates success. In this way, I have effectively used my willpower many times, but it won't work unless the application of willpower is continuous. It is a wonderful feeling to be able to say and know, my willpower, surcharged by the divine will, shall accomplish my aim. If you lazily leave everything to the divine power and neglect to use your God-given will, results will not be forthcoming. The divine power of its own accord wants to help you. You don't have to coax, but you do have to use your will to demand as his child and to behave as his child. You must banish the thought that the Lord with his wonderful power is far away in heaven and that you are a helpless little worm buried in difficulties down here on earth. Remember that behind your will is the great divine will, but that oceanic power cannot come to your aid unless you are receptive. Surcharge your willpower through concentration. The way to become receptive is to sit quietly and concentrate your thoughts on a worthy wish until your mind and thought become completely dissolved in that idea. Then, willpower becomes divine, omniscient and omnipotent, and can be successfully applied toward realizing your goal. You can't just sit there and wait for success to fall into your lap. Once your course is set and your will is firm, you have to make a practical effort. Then you will see that whatever you require for success starts coming to you. Everything will push you in the right direction. In your divinely surcharged willpower is the answer to prayer. When you use that will, you open the way through which your prayers can be answered. This is my experience. I used to attempt certain things just to test my willpower, but I don't do that anymore. I know it works. Once, long ago, I saw that one of my students was going wrong. Foreseeing the impending tragic results, I brought out every possible reason that might dissuade him from the course his life was taking, but I saw that no amount of my willpower helped him because he had made up his mind to follow the way of evil. All right, I told myself finally, it is goodbye, let him go. But soon my great love and concern for him came to the fore again. I sat under a banyan tree and began to visualize him. Fervently and repeatedly I broadcast to him a mental message. God has told me to command you to return. By evening, my body and mind were athrill with the intuition that he was coming. At last, there he was at the gate. The prodigal son had come back to the fold. He pronamed and said, all day long, wherever I went and whatever I did, I beheld your image. What was it all about? God was calling you through me, I replied. It was his call, not mine. There was no selfish motive in my desire, but I had made up my mind I wouldn't stir from this place until you came. That kind of determination can change the world. A marvelous power. So deep prayer does work. The best time to pray is at night, when there are fewer distractions. If necessary, sleep a little in the evening so that you are wide awake when you have your prayers at night and have it out with God. At first, it will seem hard, but as you keep on trying, it will become easier. You will be surprised at the results. As soon as your will becomes powerful, God begins to answer. And when the infinite condescends to break his vow of silence, you will not be able to contain your joy. But if you have an egotistic desire to demonstrate to others the power of your prayers, or if you commercialize it, you will lose that power. God will respond to you no more. You will have frightened him away. He comes only when you are sincere and when you love him for his own sake. When you are impressed with yourself and want to show off, he sees that you seek not him, but fame and glorification of your ego, and he will not come. Who will persist until God answers? God is not a mute, unfeeling being. He is love itself. If you know how to meditate to make contact with him, he will respond to your loving demands. You do not have to plead. You can demand as his child. But which of you will spend the necessary time? Which of you will persist until you become so concentrated that you receive an answer from him? Suppose you have a mortgage on your home and you cannot meet it. Or there is a certain job you want. In the silence that comes after meditating deeply, concentrate with unswerving will on the thought of your need. Do not keep looking for the result. If you sow a seed in the ground and then take it out every once in a while to see if it is growing, it will never sprout. Similarly, if every time you pray you look for a sign that the Lord is granting your wish, nothing will happen. Never try to test God. Just go on praying unceasingly. Your duty is to bring your need to God's attention and to do your part in helping God to bring that desire to fruition. For example, in chronic diseases, do your best to help promote healing, but know in your mind that ultimately God alone can help. Take that thought with you into meditation every night, and with all your determination pray. Suddenly one day you will find the disease gone. First, the mind receives the suggestion. Then the divine impregnates the mind with his power. Finally, the brain releases the life energy to heal. You do not realize the power of God that is in your mind. It controls all the bodily functions. You can promote any condition in the body if you exercise that power of your mind. It is necessary first to learn the right method of meditation. Then you can apply its divinely empowered concentration to heal the body or to help you in any other difficulty. Every day, undertake something that is difficult for you and try to do it. Though you fail 5 times, keep on, and as soon as you have succeeded in that direction, apply your concentrated will on something else. You will thus be able to accomplish increasingly greater things. Will is the instrument of the image of God within you. In will lies his limitless power, the power that controls all the forces of nature. As you are made in his image, that power is yours to bring about whatever you desire. You can create prosperity. You can change hatred into love. Pray until body and mind are completely subjugated. Then you will receive God's response. I constantly find that my slightest wish is answered. Your greatest necessity is God. Between the eyebrows is the door to heaven. This center in the brain is the seat of will. When you concentrate deeply there and calmly will, whatever you are willing shall come about. So never use your will for evil purposes. To will harm to someone intentionally is a grave misuse of your God-given power. If you find your will going in the wrong direction, stop. Not only is it a waste of your divine energy, it will be the cause of your losing that power. You will not be able to employ it even for good purposes. Determine honestly whether or not your prayer is legitimate. Do not ask God for things that are quite impossible in the natural order of life. Ask only for true necessities. And know the difference between necessary necessities and unnecessary necessities. The best way to cure yourself of desires for unnecessary necessities is to reason them away. Dreaming of big buildings used to be a hobby of mine, but that interest is gone now. I have plenty of them, and all the headaches that accompany their maintenance. Ownership is a worrisome responsibility. Cut out desires for needless possessions. Concentrate only on your real needs. Your greatest necessity is God. He will give you not only your necessary necessities, but your unnecessary necessities as well. He will satisfy your every desire when you are one with him. Your wildest dreams will come true. When I was a little boy in India, I so much wanted a pony, but my mother wouldn't allow me to have one. Some years later, after I had started my school for boys in Ranchi, I brought home a horse for our use. One morning I found she had given birth to a colt, just what I had wanted in my childhood. Many such experiences have come to me. Long ago, while I was traveling in Kashmir, I saw this building in a vision. Years later, when I came to Los Angeles and saw this place, I recognized it as the building in my vision and knew that God intended it to be ours. Follow the rules of prayer. The first rule in prayer is to approach God only with legitimate desires. The second is to pray for their fulfillment, not as a beggar, but as a son. I am thy child. Thou art my father. Thou and I are one. When you pray deeply and continuously, you will feel a great joy welling up in your heart. Don't be satisfied until that joy manifests, for when you feel that all-satisfying joy in your heart, you will know that God has tuned in your prayer broadcast. Then pray to your Father. Lord, this is my need. I am willing to work for it. Please guide me and help me to have the right thoughts and to do the right things to bring about success. I will use my reason and work with determination, but guide thou my reason, will, and activity to the right thing that I should do. This is how I have always prayed. Now, as soon as I ask God about some undertaking, I know whether I should do it or not, and I know what steps I should and should not take. Be practical and earnest about prayer. Concentrate deeply on what you are praying. Before you seek a job or sign a contract or do anything important, think of that power. Think of it continuously. Take time out of sleep. Your mind is habituated to resting at night from the day's duties and keeps urging, sleep. You must answer with all your divine power of will. Away with sleep. My engagement with God is more important. Then you will receive God's response.